Welcome to Free Burn. This is Matt Ballard, your host. This is the podcast where we talk all things mental and behavioral health in the first responder community. Real life firefighters, police officers, EMTs and paramedics, clinicians, and doctors. It's time we have the real conversation and burn the stigma behind first responder mental health, one podcast at a time. Welcome back, folks. This is Matt Ballard, your host for Free Burn 2023. Today, we're going to be sitting down with Darin Field. He's a captain for Duncanville Fire here in Texas, 25 years. Been with his wife for over 10 years, 7 kids between both of them. He's on the peer team, working one of many doubles is what I'm hearing, right, brother?
Yes, sir. That's my 4th one in 2 weeks. So
yeah, been busy.
So, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, the paycheck will be all right.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. More doubles you can get, the better off you are, right? Sometimes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With that many kids, you gotta have a paycheck here and there.
I hear that, man. For sure. But dude, thanks for being on. Excited to hear your journey and your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, share a little bit about Duncanville Fire and how many stations and kind of what y'all do and a little bit of history behind that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, no, like you say, I've been here 25 years. Started June of '98, and Duncanville, we're a smaller department. We have 2 stations. We run engine, quint, 2 MICUs, a brush truck, and a battalion chief, and we're part of the Tri-Cities organization, which is Duncanville, Cedar Hill, and DeSoto.
Yeah.
So our Station 2, Quint, runs first up with them a lot. We all run together. We'll get 5 apparatus on a structure fire. 2 or 3 of them are from another city. And we do the same for them. Structure fire, we go there first too. We're first on with all their stuff. So
right,
so we work together, pretty good partnership. And but like I say, it's been a smaller department. We run. I think we just got our numbers in August. Last year we had around 7,500 calls for 2 stations.
That's busy.
So yeah, it's busy. We're on the south end of Dallas County. I-20, 67, Redbird area. Is my district, and so we run a lot with Dallas as well.
Yeah,
so.
Y'all are kind of like us in Balch Springs. Yeah, kind of on the outskirts. So
yeah, lots of automatic aid.
Oh yeah. That's pretty busy, man. 7,500 calls. So you're running quite a bit. It sounds like.
Yeah. And our engines run with our ambulances on just about everything, except for medical emergencies. We'll go our engines and go ahead and go on heart attacks, breathing difficulties, things like that. Traumas that we need.
Yeah.
So yeah, we stay hopping.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like for sure. Well, dude, what about y'all's peer team? I mean, y'all currently have a peer team, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do. Only probably in the last 6 months, we've been building our peer team with the police department. We have 3 or 4 members of the police department that are actually Rob McCarty up there kind of started heading this up. He is our peer team leader and reached out to the fire department. And we've got 4 members on the fire department here, and I think they've got 4 members. So we've got 8 of us so far on the peer team, which I think is pretty good for a small department as we have. That's how I met you, through some of these classes that we've been taking through the readiness group,
Sure.
and Kelly been putting. So they've really been a big resource for us and helping us out get started. So I think it's really great. It's going good so far, and I can't wait to get into it further.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. I mean, like you said, we met going through some of the courses that they give. You meet some good people, man, and it's kind of crazy because you don't ever really know people's stories, right? And then in some of these classes that we take, we kind of dive in a little bit. You get a little more comfortable with people, and stories start coming out, right? And you're like, okay,
Oh, I know. No, I tell you, man.
yeah.
I've said some things in group with you that I really never thought I'd be tell to a group of strangers.
Well, that's the
It's
beauty of the
like,
class, man. It's like, most of us in those classes have been through something. We all pretty much have, but everybody goes through some stuff in their life. But to see that end of it, most of us are first responders, whether it be on the police side or fire side. They're taking these classes, and there's some other, like clinicians and stuff that take them too. But yeah, to be
yeah,
able to hear those different stories, man, it's just like it's kind of eye opening, to know that okay, it's not just me. There's other people out
yeah,
there like me. So
yeah. I'm not alone. I'm not the only guy that happens to.
yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah. Well, with that, bro, you want to jump into your journey a little bit and just kind of tell us, where you've been and where you're at, and take off with it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no. I grew up in a really small town out in West Texas, Kermit. It's out west of Odessa, Midland, and so I grew up in the desert. And of course, growing up in a small town like that, you have to find your own fun, make your own fun.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's always kind of leaned towards the more exciting, the more risk-taking things in life, and
hmm,
motorcycles and and things like that. Just always been a bit of a daredevil,
sure.
and growing up like that, it's just my poor parents. I put them through the ringer. I'm sure. And now that I'm older, I think every time I talk to them on the phone now, I apologize for the way I acted as a young man.
Yeah, right.
Because it doesn't hit you till you have your own kids. It's like, man,
Sure.
I would have killed me if I was them.
Yep.
But no, we had a good time, growing up and got out of, my parents, like I say, they're great. They're still married. They're 77 years old and
That's awesome.
50 something years, and they're great. Couldn't ask for a better set of parents to raise me. I mean, I know I've had a lot of problems personally, mentally and otherwise in my life.
Sure.
Wasn't their fault, I promise you,
Yeah.
because they did absolute best job in the world.
Yeah. We make our own way, most of the time.
Oh yeah,
For,
oh yeah,
for sure.
and
You know.
so yeah. Well, my journey, I guess, the really started in college. When I got out of high school and kind of wandering around trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Like any typical, teenager that doesn't know what he wants to do. Yeah, I started doing some crazy things, just trying to fit my personality. I rodeoed a lot. I used to fight bulls. I was a rodeo clown for several years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know. And I think I got out of that. I got out of that to go to the fire service. I needed something safer.
Right. Those are pretty close together, but yeah, I'd say the fire service may be just a little bit safer than that one for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I got through, kind of stumbling around life, job to job. So it was pretty much call it a divine intervention,
Sure.
because I grew up in a Christian home, my
Yep.
mother was very spiritual. She's still a Sunday school teacher at 76
Really.
years old.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
and yeah, but so I prayed about it one day because I was working for a beer company at the time, and I was praying one day, and I said, God, I don't know what you have in store for me, but this is not it. I
Yeah.
said, just open my mind, open my heart, and all of a sudden it was like lightning struck me. It said, I want to be a paramedic and a firefighter. And I had
Yeah.
never thought about that once in a million
Yeah.
years. I mean, my whole life, never even considered it.
Yep.
And it hit me like somebody slapped me in the face. And I was like, oh. I said, man, that's pretty awesome. So I thought, how do I do that? I said,
Yeah.
I'm working for this beer company right now. I've got a job. And so the next week I had a falling out with one of the managers there at the company. Told him, take this job and shove it, kind of thing. And walked out of there. And I remember I called my mom and I said, hey, I quit the beer business today, and she was so relieved. She
Really?
she hated me working there,
Yeah.
and I said, but I said, can I have a plan? I said, but I was broke, so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it, but I kind of got a plan, and I want to go. I wanted to go back to school, and I want to get my EMT paramedic,
Hmm.
and go from there. And she said, that sounds like a good plan. She goes, don't worry about it. She goes, I'll help you get started,
Yeah.
and she said, because that sounds a lot better than the beer business. And I was like, nothing against beer guys, I promise
No.
you,
Yeah.
because that's a hard job.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
uh,
How
so
old?
that's what
How
got me
old were you at
started.
the time?
20, 24,
Okay.
24 years old, So yeah, I try not to give my kids any crap about figuring out what they want to do in life until they're old, until they're 21, 22. Because same thing happened to me. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with you
and
100%.
so, but yeah, so I got enrolled Odessa College out in Odessa, Texas, if you know where that's at, and
Yeah.
went through EMT program, paramedic program, and started working at a trauma center out there. Went through paramedic school, and and I was off to the races,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and I loved every minute of it. I mean, you couldn't get me away from that hospital. I mean, I pretty much
Sure.
lived there.
Yeah.
If anybody out there who's been through paramedic school, you know how many hours you're going to spend doing clinicals and everything else. And plus, I work there full time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I pretty much lived there. And
It's a lot of hours you got to put
yeah,
in, man, through medic school for
it
sure.
was. Yeah, it was. It definitely was. But like I say, it was a godsend too. I mean, that's why I always called that decision that day the divine intervention, because once that entered my life, you know, everything became easy. Up till
Yeah.
that point in my life, everything I'd done and tried was hard. I mean,
Yep.
it was a struggle. I mean, I was just, oh gosh, it was like trying to run in mud.
Hmm.
And it just wasn't working. And after that, after I made a decision and started that part of the journey, everything became easy. I mean, yeah, I had to study and I had to work hard, but it wasn't without real.
Sure.
I was top of the class. It was easy to retain that information once I learned it. And I mean, just going through the process, I just like I hit my niche, and I thank God for it every day, because it was such a blessing, I mean, it was crazy, I mean,
Yeah.
how much I enjoyed it, and how much of a passion I had for it, and
Hmm.
getting out of paramedic school, I was talking to a couple of the firemen there that used to come into the ER, and they're like, "What are you gonna do with your paramedic?" And then I was like, "Well, I had this big grand scheme. I was gonna go to Las Vegas and ride Mercy ambulance, during the during the summertime, and then in the wintertime, I was gonna go to Colorado and be a medic on the slopes and all that.
Yeah.
I was gonna live this single life, and
Uh-huh.
be a paramedic and all. I was just gonna medic all over the place,
Right.
and they talked some sense into me. They's like, they said, dude, that sounds like a good plan, but it's not going to work. They said the only way to make a living in this game as a paramedic is if you go work for a fire service. And
Yeah.
I was like, really? And they're like, it's the only way to make a decent living as a medic. Because at the time, I don't know if you remember back in the early or in the mid 90s. I mean, working for a private ambulance company didn't pay anything.
No. Yeah.
I mean, so I was like,
It's
well,
gotten a
you're
little bit better,
right.
but it's still not where it needs to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Not for the training you have to go through and the things they have to go through.
Right.
But so anyway, I said, okay, yeah, you're right. And so I went and checked with the place I've been going to paramedic school at the college, and they had a fire academy just starting. And so I got involved in that, went through, and like I say, once again, everything was easy. Yeah, the PT was hard.
Sure.
I'd never physically trained that hard in my life. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
this place was like paramilitary organization, and
Hmm.
and they kicked our butts, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
When we finally graduated, there wasn't a physical agility that I couldn't pass. I promise you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so went from there. I started testing around, and out in West Texas, the fire service. Actually, I thought, I wonder. I've always had a friend that lived here in the Metroplex, and that I grew up with, and he said, "Man, you ought to come out here and check it out." And it's really pretty cool. And living out here, he lived Red Oak,
Yep.
and did some work here in Duncanville. And actually, he did some work for our old assistant fire chief here in Duncanville on a red house. Our old assistant fire chief, Terry Webb, asked him, said, anybody looking to get in the fire service? Our department's hiring right now, and we used to call each other brothers all the time because we were that close. And he said, yeah, my little brother's just getting out of fire academy, looking for a job. He said, well, tell him to come out. So I did.
Yeah.
And like they say, the rest is history. I came
Sure.
out and tested, got number one, and I went through the process, and they paid a lot more out here in the Metroplex than they do out in West Texas.
Oh, I bet.
so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this, and came
So
out and
how
got
old were you when
started.
you got on in Duncanville?
I was fixed to be 20. I was 27, fixed to be 28.
That's the same age I was when
And
I got on in Ball Springs. So
well,
yeah.
yeah, I got on in May of '98, and I was graduating Fire Academy in May. So
Yeah.
they gave me the job. They offered me the job. Let me say, contingent on state test with the
Sure.
Commission on Fire Protection.
Yep.
So that was a
Yeah.
big test for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to pass this so I can start working.
Now the
And
pressure's
got
on. Yep.
yeah, yeah, and I passed and got on. And
Yeah.
went from there. Went from there, and I loved it from day one. I was so excited. I mean,
Sure.
and I still am. I work a lot, and I make a joke about the thing and make a more bigger paycheck because I work so many 48
Right.
at the same time, I would do it anyway,
Sure.
and I still have the passion for it as much as I did, when I first got on,
Yeah.
because when my first year or two, I mean, you couldn't get me away from the fire station, I mean, I was working 96s. I was subbing for everybody that I wanted to sub. I was
Yeah.
getting overtime. I didn't want to leave this place, because
Yeah.
I was afraid I was going to miss something.
Right.
I
Yep.
wanted to be a part of it, and
Yeah.
and I hate it. I mean, we always say uh, I feel bad that bad things happen to good people. I said, but if something bad is going to happen, I want to be there. That was my attitude
Yeah.
then, and it still is a little bit.
Yep. I get
But,
that.
yeah, and going on, I broke out and grew up with guys and went to work with a bunch of kind of older guys that were the old, hardened firefighters with smoke eaters.
Sure.
I mean, sucking up buttercup, and that
Yep.
kind of thing. And so that was kind of my orientation into the fire service, which is not a bad thing. I mean, yeah,
No.
there's a certain amount of risk involved in what we do,
Sure.
and you sign up for that, and it's not a game for thin-skinned people.
Mm-mm.
It's you've got to be self-motivated, driven. I mean, and one and willing and
Yeah.
able to make sacrifices, physically, mentally, in your
Yeah.
family. And little did I know how many sacrifices that was going to involve over the next 25 years,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it,
There's a time and a place for that. Suck it up. I mean, obviously on scene and stuff like that. It's that It's that suck it up and let's get our job done thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You heard that expression. Sometimes you gotta embrace the suck, and that's what happens sometimes. You're on a
Sure.
scene and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And this hurt. It either hurts or something's going on. It's like
Yeah.
you've got this overwhelming sense of harm or something's going on.
Hmm.
But you're like, you know what? So, well, we get the faster I get this done, and the more knowledge I have, and the more training I have to get this done the right way, the faster we can get back to the firehouse, and sit around and
Absolutely.
talk about it.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, yeah, that went on for a good while. The suck it up buttercup syndrome, that's what we need to
Yeah.
coin that phrase, But
Yep.
it, uh, it, uh, it went on like that for years and years, and didn't really realize, how it was affecting me mentally. Wife at the time, children's mom, got to me. We were both in emergency services. She was a police officer, and I was of course, firefighter, which is, deadly combination anyway.
Yeah.
But
It can be for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, she was a great mom, to the kids, and
Yeah.
but she she would come to me, and we would have our tips about, because what you don't realize is, the things that do affect you, you don't realize they're affecting you. Other people could
Hmm.
sometimes see that they're affecting you, but
Sure.
you're like, oh, I'm tough, I'm the man, I can handle anything, and you go on, and it doesn't bother you. You don't think, but then all of a sudden, the people that are closest to you are like, hey, I've noticed this or I've noticed that, and you try to work on it, and then next thing you know, you're like hiding it. You're trying to go over above and beyond to make sure that people think you're fine and you're nice and you're funny and
Yeah.
you're cool with everything, and
Hmm.
but inside, it's like things happen. I mean, day to day, you get those memories and things happen. I mean, in our line of work, that they stay with you. I mean, I don't care what you do. I mean, now there are things in place that help with that, and to process that. But back then, that was unheard of,
Yeah.
really. And, it'd be something as simple as a smell, or something, or a feeling, or a smell, or something, and it would just these memories would just start flooding back in, and
Those
you're like,
triggering
wow,
events. Yep.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And you want learn to kind of cope with that and develop, coping mechanisms and and things over the years. And unfortunately, one of my coping mechanisms was drinking. At first, like I say, I worked with all these old heads, that were pretty heavy drinkers,
Sure.
and it was just part of the culture, when I started, it was you work and you train hard, but you party even harder.
Yeah.
I mean, so that just kind of stuck, and I went through that and kind of got a hold of it here and there, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And then later in my career, I've been on about 15 years actually, and some things happened home. My kid's mom and I divorced, and we're going through that time. And drinking really amplified and
Yeah.
problems at work. I mean, just the mental aspect of everything. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that being a firefighter and the trauma and the stress of the job, made me a drinker. Because um, I honestly don't think it. I think I was predisposed to that in the first place. It's just that uh, the stresses of our job and the things that we do, and maybe helped me, to
Yeah.
have an excuse. And let's call
Sure.
it that. I had an excuse to want to drink more, because then it was like, oh well, we understand you've been through a lot, and you work all the time, and so it's okay if you want to, have a few extra. I mean, you
Yeah.
deserve it, and that turned into a lot more than your average heavy drinker over the
Oh yeah.
next, unfortunately, over the next 10 years. But the my saving grace, like I say, I met my wife now, and we hit it off real well, and she was very understanding of everything. She's always been my number one support, and
Yeah.
fights for me at every turn, and she was. All this changed about a year ago. Honestly, we were married in April of 22, and um, shortly thereafter, she started noticing things and bringing things to my attention that I had just kind of pretty much let go for the last 10 years, and not even paid attention to. And my daughter and my son both came to me, and we're concerned when, and so they're like, Dad, you got to do something, So well, I don't. My daughter is in emergency services as well. She works in the ER over at Harris
Okay.
Methodist in Fort Worth, and so she's in the medical field. And my son, my youngest, he's in the RT program at Weatherford College. He'll be out in a semester or two, and he's
Yeah.
got big aspirations. He wants to work with kids at Cooks as a respiratory therapist and everything.
That's cool, dude. Yeah.
So
Heck yeah.
yeah, at least I'm really proud of the fact that some of these kids have taken the lead or taken the uh, lead from me as far as working in this kind of business on the medical field or helping people. The world's gonna need civil servants, and it really makes me proud to know that these kids are using some of what I got as an example, and hopefully
Yeah.
they'll use some of the other stuff as to what not to do,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like I say, they came to me and were concerned, and my wife, we like I say we married in April and that year, and she came to me kind of concerned and was like, hey, something's not right. You're, you know, there's something going on here. She said you're either. Her exact words were either your tolerance has gone way down or you're hiding something. You know.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, well, I'll be honest with you. I said, my tolerance is probably better than it ever has been. And she said, well, that means the other. And I said, yeah, you're right. I said, yeah, I haven't been quite front with about how much I was drinking and things.
Yeah.
So, but like I say, the job never, as far as I know, yeah, I wasn't worth the crap at the fire station for the first hour and a half, because I was probably still hungover. Praying to God we didn't have the structure fire, because I felt bad,
Yeah.
I was hung over still or what have you. And that's one thing I can honestly say, I've never in my career drank on the job. Well, I mean, and it wasn't that bad. But the closest I could say I ever came to it maybe was drinking too late the night before, and I could probably blow a .08, on the way to work. But,
Yeah.
hadn't drank it for 5 hours, 6 hours.
Well, you're not the only one. I'm sure there's several of us out there that have been in that situation more than once.
Like I say, I can't blame the fire service for that because I think I was predisposed to those kind of behaviors beforehand anyway. I've always surrounded myself with people that did drink heavily,
Yeah.
and like to party. And, I was always the social butterfly, party guy,
Hmm.
and everything. So, I was always predisposed to that, I believe. But, this line of work, it doesn't help that in any way, whatsoever. When you look back on it and you think, okay, um, if you want to call it PTSD, I think you and I talked the other day, and I said I never thought about what I do or what I've done as having PTSD. I've always kind of reserved
Yeah.
for military and veterans. I was like,
Sure.
I'm not out here getting shot at,
Right.
and my buddy's not getting killed right beside me,
Hmm.
when we're on deployment or something. So I've always reserved that PTSD for military and veterans and people that actually see horrible things,
Yeah.
and but and then now, since the last probably year and a half, when we've started all this, and I've been going to classes and trying and going through some things, it's like you start thinking about it, and you're like, okay, yeah, okay, PTSD can equate to what we do. We can, uh, because the human mind, the human body, to me, I don't think is actually able to comprehend and process all the things that we see,
Yeah.
and deal with,
Yep.
and I was talking to a friend of mine about the same exact conversation, and he said, and he is a combat veteran,
Yeah.
and he's actually my sponsor, and he said, well, think of it like this. He goes, yes, I'm a combat. He's a special forces combat veteran, and he said, okay. He goes, I was in the military. He goes, I was deployed, maybe over 4 or 5 years,
Hmm.
and he said, and I did have to deal with a lot of that kind of thing you're talking about, and he said, but think about what you do and what you've seen. He goes, okay, I went to war for 4 or 5 years. He said, if you're going to talk about it like that, he goes, you've been at war for 25 years. He said, do you think that wouldn't have some kind of a effect on your mentality or your mental health or your
Yeah.
anything that you're trying to use to cope with that? And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, well, yeah, you're right. I mean,
That's
and
true, bro. Yeah.
I was like, when you explain it to me like that, I was like, yeah, you know what, man, you're right. And when you I guess couple that with we've all heard about shift work disorder.
Hmm.
If I'm on duty for 24 and off 48, or I work a double and I'm only off one day, I think you guys in most things work 2 on 4 off,
Yeah,
do a
we are.
48-96, So you got 2 days, there uh, where you may not sleep, 6 hours in 2 days,
Yeah.
or 4 hours in 2 days. So when you
Hmm.
go home, all you want to do is go to bed. It's
Yep.
like all I want to do is when I get home, I'm taking a nap,
Yeah.
and get home at eight
Recoup
thirty
time.
9 o'clock. Yeah,
Yeah.
get home at 8:30 9 o'clock and sleep till noon. On
Hmm.
that first day off, and then then your internal clock is totally screwed from that
Yep.
point on. Or like our circadian rhythm, I guess you'd call it. I
Yep.
mean, we don't have that. We don't have the luxury of having that sometimes. And over time, it will start messing with you mentally,
Sure. Yeah.
and physically, mentally. I mean, um, we have all kinds of problems because of it. And it's just. Like I say, unfortunately, I went down the path of coping mechanisms of drinking all too much, and
Yeah.
like I say, my wife, she helped me start, realizing what I was doing was just wrong. My kids helped me start realizing, I was just killing myself,
Yeah.
a slow death. The wife and I had our 1 year anniversary, and I took on the way home. I told her because I had tried to quit several times in the past, and it was a disaster. I mean, I always came back with a vengeance. Like I had to make up for lost time. I was like, okay,
Sure.
I didn't drink for a month, so now I got to drink twice as much for the next month.
Yep. Got to catch up. Yep.
And I got to catch up, bro, and so they.
Yeah.
So when I was on our way home from our anniversary trip, and I had drank a lot more than she did, but on the way home, I told her, I said, hey, when we get back, I'm gonna um, try it again. I'm gonna try one more time, to stop
Yeah.
this, to stop this insanity. I said, and I said, if I can't, I said, then I'm gonna go get some help.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. She goes, whatever you want to do. She goes, I'm with you. I'm behind you. I'll support you 100%, and I said, okay. And so we got home from that trip, and I think I lasted one day, and
Yeah.
I was back at it, and I was beside myself. I was like, because here we are, I mean, we think we're in control of everything, and we're so tough and so strong, and we have everything figured out. Well,
Hmm.
I was completely out of control. I was completely powerless,
Yep.
over this, and it took realizing that, I hit my knees. Like I said, I grew up in a Christian home,
Hmm.
and I was so disappointed in myself,
Yeah.
that I had let my life spin completely out of control. Now, I didn't lose everything. Like you always hear of people hitting rock bottom,
Right.
and losing everything. I didn't. That didn't happen. My sponsor calls it a dirt bottom. He calls it a
Yeah.
dirt bottom.
Yep.
He says, and this analogy will hold true. I hope there's somebody out there this will help, because he explains it like you have a shovel in your hand.
Hmm.
He said, and you start digging. So anybody else, any normal person, would start digging a hole. Had that they needed a hole dug for some reason, and so they start digging, and they get tired of digging, and they get through with their project or whatever. So they get out of the hole and they throw their shovel down. They walk off, they go inside the house, have a glass of tea, whatever, get in the air
Yeah.
conditioner. But he said, my problem is that I'll start digging, get tired of digging, but I'll stop, but I won't get out of the hole. I'll just stand there.
Hmm.
He said, and you never put the shovel down. He said, you got that shovel in your hand the whole time.
Yeah.
He said, you won't put it down. He said, guess what? He said, you're going to have that shovel in your hand the rest of your life.
Yeah.
He said, and at any moment, any given moment, you can start digging again.
Yeah.
You know, he said, so he goes, that's where you're at. And he
Yep.
goes, the best you can do is, like I say, just admit, try to deal with it, that yes, I am powerless over this.
Hmm.
And, and that's part of the steps, I'm not ashamed to say, I'm in a 12-step program,
Yeah.
and I really hope this is 12-step stuff right here. It was trying to help other people,
Right.
and I really hope it helps someone,
Yeah. It
because
will.
the first thing is to admit you're powerless. Second, you have to admit, that there is a higher power other than
Hmm.
yourself. There's no way humanly possible I can change this on my own. You
Yeah.
know, I have to be willing. I have to know that there's a higher power. And trusting God that He can return me to sanity.
Sure.
Is
Yeah.
is the paraphrase of it, but. So I did. I went and got help, and I went to a inpatient hospital,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
at the time I was off on an injury from work, so I figured why not now? That way nobody has to know.
Yep.
I can go do this on my own. I can
Yeah.
do it on my insurance. I'm not calling the EAP or anything like that,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do this all on my own. I'm going to do it on my
Hmm.
own. I'm going to get, and I did. I went to the hospital, and you know uh, registered, got in there, and I had called around and talked to a few people and about where to go,
Yeah.
and I ended up in Carrollton, uh, up there in the inpatient hospital. But
Hmm.
went through when I got there, the lady was doing the intake. She's like, "When's the last time you drank?" And I had to look at my watch, and I was like 25 minutes ago.
Really.
I said I
Yeah.
finished off a couple of things out in the parking lot because I knew I was done.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
after that point, I didn't stop, and I knew I couldn't stop on my own. But anyway, so I went in
Yeah.
there, and so they were like, okay, so yeah, I spent the next week and a half or whatever going through detox and rehab,
Hmm.
and came out, and I haven't looked back, I mean, and pray God, and with His help, I can keep this going,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
but not to say that that was the right way to do it, because that's why I'm with you now, and I mean, while we're in this boat together, and
Sure.
trying to spread this message, because I want people that develop these mental problems and these, the depression, the anxiety, the insomnia, the coping mechanisms that are not healthy,
Yeah.
I mean, in our business, because it's bad in our business, and
Yeah.
suicide rate is up. We have one of the highest divorce rates of any occupation.
Yep.
I mean, so it's there, and I've been through all of them. Not suicide. I have had suicidal thoughts. I'll
Yeah.
grant you, but I've never acted on those impulses. Thank God, because
Yeah.
I think about how many things that I'd be missing out on, right now,
Yep.
but that's why I got through, and I got through with the treatment and started this journey. I was on fire when I met you, I was like, I
Oh
want
yeah.
this so bad. I want this so bad, and I want to
Yeah.
share it with people so bad, I was like, because
Hmm.
I was just so relieved, I
Yeah.
mean, I was honestly like the weight was off my shoulders. I could breathe again.
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't feel like hammered dog crap, every morning.
Yep.
So, I mean, so, I was excited about it. I still am. I'm still very excited about it, and I feel like I'm not doing enough still, that
Yeah.
I want to get better at this. I want us to get better. I want to be able to talk to these rookies and these young guys, and get them started out on the right path. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, because if we can get started uh, and healthy, you know, healthier coping mechanisms and things, along the way, and doing the sisms with them, and having the peer groups and the resource list that we have, the readiness group coming in to talk to
Yep.
people, and having
Hmm.
those kind of resources where if I got a guy that's, having trouble or going, and I can recognize that, I wouldn't, now granted, I wouldn't have had to gone to a class that we've gone to recognize somebody that had
No.
done, it was doing some of the same things I was doing at the time,
Sure. Yeah.
because I mean, any idiot could have told you I had problems, but
Right. Same here with
but
me,
it's
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right? You got through it, but I think it's just like, as but now you can recognize that, a lot. You're a lot more keen and a lot more aware of that now, and are able to help somebody,
Yeah.
faster than. And I think our barriers are broken down enough that where we're not scared anymore. I'm not
Hmm.
scared to talk about it anymore.
No,
If you'd have caught me two years ago, I would have never told you
I
half the
wouldn't
things I
have.
just told you.
No, I wouldn't be sitting here 2 years ago. I promise you that. I'd have been like, "You're crazy. I ain't talking about that stuff." I don't want people to look at
Right,
me in a different light, which they still might to this day. But it's like I don't care no more, man. It's like if I can affect
right,
one dude
right.
or help one brother or sister, that's what it's about for me now. You know. So
Oh, exactly. I got back from rehab, and I started going to a 12-step program,
uh huh.
and things are really successful with that, and it really helped me come out of that dark place that I was in. And like I say, with that, and actually rebuilding my spiritual relationship and my relationship with God, and rebuilding my relationship with my family, I
Hmm.
mean, because I had kind of ignored everybody for the last several years and kind of tried to hide in a hole, and
Yeah.
stay away from everybody and everything. And
Hmm.
that was the depression, severe depression, anxiety. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with just crushing anxiety, like, like my house was on fire or something.
Sure.
I mean, nothing was happening. I would just
Hmm.
wake up in a sweat,
Yep.
scared that something was happening,
Yep.
or was gonna happen,
Hmm.
and nothing was happening. It was my
I know
own
how that
mind.
goes, bro. I had the same thing. Yeah. Anxiety,
It's
depression, just
crazy.
losing sleep, and the sleep that I did get, it was not worth a crap kind of sleep.
Yeah,
It
yeah. No,
affects
I
so many
know.
areas of your life, man. It's just for you, the coping mechanism was drinking alcohol. For me, it was just it came out in different ways. For me, it was anger,
Hmm.
rage, whatever. I could have easily picked up a bottle of whiskey. And there were times that I did drink. It's just it was not my main coping mechanism. I had several of them,
Right,
you
right,
know.
right.
But yeah, that's just the way it
Yeah, and
happens sometimes.
I know. Well, nowadays, I have a lot healthier coping mechanism, and
Yeah.
healthier outlets. I have, like rediscovered a vigor for life, I
Yeah.
mean, and it was always there. I was just too drunk to see it.
Sure.
I mean, but now, like I say, on this journey that I'm on, relationship with my wife is so much better, my children so much better, even, just everybody, my family, my parents,
Mhm.
I was able to talk with them about some things, that happened in my childhood. They didn't even know that,
Yeah.
and clear the air with that. And I mean, it's just crazy, It's like I say, I mean, my spiritual connection with God has gotten so much stronger. We've talked some of our classes, I mean, I pray and meditate
Yeah.
even if it's just for a couple of minutes. I mean, sometimes I'm busy. Sometimes we'll catch a call at 6 a.m. and then
Oh
and
yeah.
then about 9 o'clock that morning, I'm like, oh crap, I didn't do my prayer and meditation yet, And so I'll go find a quiet place, and
Yep.
say, just a 30-second prayer or something. I told you this and that one day. When I say meditate, it's not like you're sitting there, oh, I mean, and then I would say it's not that at
No.
all. When I say pray and meditate, my sponsor is actually the one who enlightened me on this. He said it's when you pray, it's you're talking to God, and when you meditate, he said you're listening to God, He
Exactly.
said so. He said you can pray and
Just
ask
be
for things
quiet
all
and
day
listen.
long, all day
Yep.
long. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean you're going to get them, and doesn't
Mhm.
mean he wants you to have them. He said, but if you'll sit there and meditate afterwards, he said, you listen to God, things start popping into your head, things start working and start clicking,
Yeah.
and it may be something like, you know, um, a thought of somebody will pop in your head. And you're like,
Mhm.
man, I haven't talked to that guy in 2 years, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I need to call him,
Yep.
and you call him and he's going through something
It's
and you
crazy, isn't it?
talk it out and he's like, man, thanks for calling. You have made such a big difference. Well, I'm definitely going to look this person up or do this or do that, And
Sure.
so you get off the phone and you're like, wow, that actually was cool. That was a God moment, I mean, it
Sure.
was him working through me, I
Yep.
mean, it was something that's crazy that you don't realize, whenever you do it consistently, um, you develop that connection,
Mhm.
and not even knowing it, God's talking to you, and things pop into your head, that you haven't thought of in years or done in years or
Yep.
whatever, and then you're like, hey, that's a good idea, I mean, I'm gonna do this today or that today, and it's like the universe has been righted, has been set on its axis again, and things are just going smooth,
Let me
and
tell you a secret.
what's
Freeburn,
that?
Freeburn 2023 podcast.
Uh-huh.
That's how that came about. It was
Yeah.
from
For
hearing.
meditation.
It was from
Yeah.
hearing from, dude,
Listening.
this is literally like a God thing for me. It was like, I mean, I would have never thought if you'd have told me I'd have been doing a podcast, 6 months ago or a year ago, I'd have been like,
Yeah.
man, that ain't happening, bro. Whatever. And it just
Yeah.
doors started opening, man. And it was a God thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more in tune with my relationship with
Yeah.
Christ. And the
Oh
more
yeah.
in tune that I get, more stuff happens. Not saying that I don't struggle, because I still do sometimes, but I know that
Oh
he is
yeah.
the basis behind everything that I do. And if I can
Yeah.
keep him the basis, I mean, there is no
Exactly.
limit.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, and what a better thing to base your life on, I mean, because, I hear people, sometimes talk about, hey, well, if I do this, then God will do this for me, and it's like, no, that's not the way it works, bro.
That ain't the way it works, bro.
You know,
He can,
that's called, yeah, it,
but it
it
doesn't mean he's
can, it
going
can.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can, but that's kind of more along the karma lines, It's like
Yeah.
if you're mean to the world, it's going to be mean back, But at the same time, if you do good things to the world, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get good things back.
No.
But it just means that you're a good person and you want to be good, and do
Sure.
things,
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, it's like why would you don't limit yourself and your
Mm-mm.
relationship with God? It's like, okay, I have to do this so that I can do this. Well, no, don't do that. I mean,
No.
you just pray and you if it takes, you say to yourself 10 times a day, thy will be done. You
Yep.
know, you're asking God to work through you.
Yeah.
So when you have those struggles and those moments of you know, insecurity or indecision, you know, and you just say it's a how long does that take to say? 2 seconds. You
Yeah.
know, it's like a 2 second prayer 10 times a day. You know, it's like thy will be done. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and you know what it means. And God knows what it
Sure.
means.
Yep.
So you just go on, and then you reset yourself. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
That's
you
awesome,
know,
dude. I love it.
yeah, I mean, but I work with, you know, there are a couple of agnostics and a couple of atheists that I've worked with through the years, you know, and we've
Yep.
had lengthy discussions about things, you know, and they have their beliefs and I have my beliefs, you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna knock somebody, you know, for theirs. It's just that, you know, I explained it to them, you know, just like my was talking about in my group one night, you know, it's like, okay, let's say you're agnostic or you don't believe or whatever. So say it's a 50-50 shot, you
Mm-hmm.
know, of okay, I got 50% chance of being right and God existing, and when I'm going to heaven and have eternal life, or I got 50% to be wrong, and if I die, then I'm going to go to hell and burn for, you know, or that's just it, or you're going to die and it's just nothing, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, life is over and somebody turned off the light, you know.
I'll
I
take the
mean,
better 50%.
yeah, but that's what I was saying. That's what I was getting at. It's like, what 50% do you want to be on? You know, what if it turns out that you are right, and there is a heaven and hell? That's what I was getting at. I got that
Yeah.
mistaken, but and there is a heaven. So if I'm right and you don't believe and you go to hell, so you're willing to gamble
Mm-hmm.
50% chance that you're going to go to hell and burn to death, you know,
Yep.
burn for eternity, or you're going to go have eternal life, you know, and live in heaven. You know?
Yep.
If you're wrong, you know, and there is that, I feel sorry for you, brother.
Yeah.
You know, but
It's not going to be a
if you're
good day for
right,
you.
but if you're right, and then when you die, somebody just turns out the light, then you know, hey, everybody's just going to get their light turned on. You know,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
there's no repercussions for anything. You know? It's just like
Yep.
it's over.
Yeah.
You know? But if I'm right, I dang sure don't want to go to the bad place for the rest of my, you know, for eternity.
Shoot, no, man.
But
I
anyhow,
I
the
want to
you know,
be I want to be up there for sure.
oh,
And
exactly. You
it
know,
that
and
dude, let me
like I
tell
said,
you this. It that plays. I know for me, it played a huge part, and I know for you, it plays a huge part, right? And
mm,
it can play a huge part in your healing process. And I'm not trying to push, my religion. I don't even want to call it religion. It's my beliefs, right? Uh,
oh yeah, no,
on
exactly. I
anybody,
know where you're
but
coming from. Yeah.
I want people to know that that is a basis behind. It was a huge
Mhm.
basis behind my healing, right? Because if it wasn't for the Lord and my family and certain people, I may not be here. Just be honest with you. I mean, I've said that in my podcast, and uh, I see God work in my life every single day, right? Even the days that I struggle, He's always there, And
Oh,
sometimes I'll veer off that path, man, and He's like, hey, tapping me on the shoulder, saying, nope, let's come back this way, kind of thing, And it happens all the time. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect, but uh, I try to keep Him in the center of my life and going that way. And I believe that if I continue to do that, then I mean, I can't go wrong. You know what I mean? Not saying there's never going to be trouble in my life, because there will be, but it's just the world
oh yeah,
that we live in. We live in a flawed world. So,
yeah.
you know, yeah, it's a
No,
huge part
yeah.
in healing for me, and I know it was for you. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, like I say, my family and my belief in God, you know, my spiritual connection is what got me through this. Like I say, um, you know, and like, when I say grew up in a spiritual home and a Christian home, I did. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
did too.
the bad part was that when I was, I would say, you know, 10 years in the fire service, you know, and the
Hmm.
drinking started escalating, you know,
Yeah.
and the thing, it was almost like I kind of turned my back on God, you
Hmm.
know, and it was like, you know, I knew He was there, and I knew the great things that He could do because He's done them for me.
Yeah.
But I almost like turned my back or I hid from him.
Hmm.
Like I wanted to keep all my bad stuff in this little box over here, and it's like
Yep.
it's
Don't
okay,
look.
it's okay, God, be
That's my
you don't
box.
need to you don't need to see this, that's
Yeah.
I don't need that, you know.
Like we're going to hide it from him. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like you can hide anything, but at the same time, what the when my wife, my children, started coming to me and really pointing out some of the things that were going wrong, and it just escalated from there. And I figured out, hey, this is a problem. There's no reason to live like this.
Yep.
And like I said, when it came to a head, and hit that dirt bottom, I hit my knees, and I just prayed, and I was like, this, please help me. I can't do this anymore, and
Yeah.
my crew, my family, my crew at the station, my department, my patients are people, they didn't deserve that kind of person they were getting from me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I mean, I know that I'm a better person than that,
Yeah.
and I just hid him away for a long time,
Hmm.
and like I say, it's the cynicism of our job. I think sometimes that it's where that became a norm, in my life. It was like, I've been pushing everything else down, all my feelings down for the last however many years, because I don't want people to know that, hey, this bothers me, that
Yeah.
I'm messed up in the head,
Hmm.
and so I was pushing it all down, putting on this brave face and this happy, oh man, that dude is always happy,
Yeah.
and so that level, and then you've heard the comments we make about the calls we make when we go back to the station, the jokes
Sure.
that are made about the most inappropriate things in the world,
Yeah.
and so that
That
becomes
is
the
a coping
norm.
mechanism in itself.
Oh yeah,
That,
yeah,
it is really for us.
mhm,
That kitchen table talk,
absolutely.
you know?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It got so bad. My daughter, like I say, she works at ER in Harris, and her and she would come over for dinner, and she and I would get in these conversations about what, like maybe you and I would talk about at the dinner
Sure.
table. Doesn't mean that it's good dinner conversation for the rest
No.
of the world.
Everybody else gets up and leaves, and you're the only two left.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife would reach over and she would like pat me on the arm, and I'd look at her, and she's like, "Huh," and she just got this look on her face. She goes, "Nobody else." Nobody else at this table really wants to hear what y'all two are talking about, And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's hilarious, dude. Because I can see that happening in my house too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
totally get that. Yep.
yeah.
Everybody's
So
looking at
my
you. Nobody's eating, and they're just listening to your stories. Like, what the heck is going on here, man? Yeah, yeah, that's
uh,
funny.
like I said, man, she's been my Angie was my last name. She was so special. She's so tolerant. I mean,
Yeah,
I just can't believe that she's still with
yeah,
me. But she
yep,
stuck it out and fought for it.
yeah. You got to
And
have those people in your life for sure. Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, and my kids, and the people, my parents, my mother. I was probably on her 10th set of knee pads from being down praying for me, her whole life.
yeah.
I mean, but
Right.
it's yeah, it all worked, and like I say, I couldn't be more happy
That's great, dude.
for the help that I've gotten, for the help
Yeah,
that I want to give, for the things that you're doing with this podcast, with everything, our peer groups. I mean, I think there's so many things that we need to be doing right now. Because I don't want anybody on my crew. I don't want my children, anybody else in my
hmm,
life to have to go through what I went through over the last
yeah,
10 years. And like I
yep,
say, yeah, I brought it on myself, I mean, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that, hey, you know what? I can go get help for this and probably get rid of half of this crap, before I turn it into a life-threatening situation,
yeah.
and
It's that
that's
awareness,
what
man. It's
Yeah, and
awareness.
that's what they need to understand. Like I say, I mean, um, the old guys, yeah, maybe they were right for their time in life, I mean, for that era, I mean, I always joke with some of these older guys, I was like, yeah, I made 3 calls a shift back then. I was like, how much crap can you actually go through? And it's not downplaying any of the things that they
No.
went through. I'm sure they saw just as much as we did,
Well,
but at the
I
same
tell you
time, I
this,
just,
I'm finding
go ahead.
out that from talking to some of the old hats, right, that
Hmm.
those issues actually were coming up back then. It just was
Hmm.
not viewed like it is now, right? There were suicides back
Right.
then. There were still
Hmm.
suicide rates that were high,
Yeah.
and there were guys that dealt with it, that drank and did everything else, right? They just
Hmm.
they didn't know really what it was, I don't think, at that time. And the light was not being shined on it like it is now, and just saying, hey, this is an
Right.
issue. So those issues were still happening back then. They just dealt with it in different ways, or just didn't deal with it at all.
Right. Been to several funerals, lately and in the past. I mean, some of these guys that retire, from the fire department after
Mm-hmm.
30 years, excuse me, 30 years, or 35 years, and they're gone into, or one, is, and it's not because they just don't have a purpose and failure to thrive and knowing, it's because the last 15, 20 years of their career that develop these habits,
Yeah.
and they are alcoholics, or they are,
Mm-hmm.
severely depressed. They are, everything that you can imagine,
Yep.
and some of them
Mm-hmm.
take their own lives, I mean, or some of them drink themselves to death, or some of them just have no will to go on and just sit on the
Mm-hmm.
couch and want to waller in their pity
Yeah.
and don't
I
get
hate
up
that, man.
and then they get a blood clot and die,
Yeah.
I mean, so,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just, there's so many things that can happen, and I'm just so thankful, like I say, for all this, and that I can actually see things happening in the future, that where I couldn't see before, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
things that we're doing, things that, I mean, I really honestly, what I was gonna touch on a while ago, it's like God reached when I started this part of my journey, the recovery, the detox, rehab, recovery, all that. It was as if God reached into my soul, and He pulled the alcoholism out of me,
Yeah.
and I haven't looked back. I mean, I've done some things in the past 5 months that I was nervous about. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Ooh, I've never done that sober before," and or like going to Vegas. The wife and I went to Vegas to meet my oldest son and his fiance, and I was nervous. I was like, I've
Were
never
you?
been to that town. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I've never been to that town sober.
Yep.
And so I called my sponsor. We talked about it, and he was like, "Man," he goes, "I'm not worried about you not drinking." He said, "I'm just worried about your intolerance of men at that point." He said, "I'm worried you're gonna punch somebody in the face," and I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I said I'll be fine on that part of it."
Yeah.
But once we got out there, not a, I didn't have one moment. It was like fainting or anything. I wasn't like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Gotta
there
have
wasn't.
one.
Yeah, there wasn't anything like that. I could care
Yeah.
less. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just,
That's good, dude.
no big deal, and
How many
so,
days sober
but
are you?
uh, my we called her birthday is April 14th of 23.
Okay.
So 5 months. Be going up in I guess October will be 6 months sober. So
Awesome, bro.
so I'm an infant in this process. I
Bro,
mean,
that's still, man.
I'm still crawling. That's what I always tell my sponsor. I was like, I'm still crawling. So this is I
You're
haven't even learned
killing
how
it.
to walk yet. I haven't even learned how to walk yet.
Yeah.
But things are going so well as far as physically, medically, mentally, emotionally, with my family. I mean, everything that if somebody said, okay, you have to start drinking again tomorrow, I'd tell them to get bent. I was like, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
because I mean, there's no freaking way I'd go back to that now. I
Yeah.
mean, because I was so disappointed in myself and felt so bad, and I felt so bad for my family having to go through that,
Yep.
and I feel so good now. I mean, it's like I don't know. I mean, I just I wake up every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning at the latest. What you used to, I would stay up all night drinking and then sleep till noon, on my
Yeah.
second day off or something, I mean, and
Yep.
all the stuff that I wanted to do would sit over there in a pile, and I was like, oh, I'll get to it eventually,
Yeah.
and I never would. I never would, and
Yeah.
now I can't wait to get up in the morning. It was like, oh, I got to clean the garage tomorrow. Yeah. And I'll get up,
Yep.
it's o'clock, let's go get this done, and I wouldn't give that back for the world now, I mean, that's just,
That's
I'm
great,
enjoying
dude.
life. I'm actually enjoying life again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a short time that I've known you, from the classes and stuff like that. And we've talked several times over the phone, but, yeah, dude, I'm glad that you are where you are. I can see it. You are on fire, and I can tell you have that passion to help other people, and that's awesome,
Mhm.
dude. So
I
yeah,
appreciate it, I mean, I
that's
appreciate
great
you,
stuff.
I really appreciate you putting this together, I mean, I feel like sometimes I need to call, Kelly or Erica, and say, what I need to be doing? What can we do? I was like, I feel like I'm stagnant over here. I was like,
Yeah.
I need a task. I need to do something. I said, and we are. Sometimes it takes a minute, especially when you're dealing with, several other people in your peer group and trying to get things, put together. I understand it's going to take a minute. It's not going to snap my fingers and this is
Dude,
going to
you're
be
already
gone.
doing it. You're already doing it, and you probably don't even know you're doing it, right? I bet you're already doing it. You're a captain, right? So
Oh yeah, yeah.
your guys, man, I mean, speaks volumes, I'm sure, to them, and you probably don't even know that, But
Oh,
and
I've
you
heard
may,
comments. I've heard
yeah,
comments around the firehouse. It's like,
keep leading, bro. I mean, that's the
yeah,
thing. Keep leading.
a couple of my guys have made a comment about I'll be doing something, and I think one of them said the other day, he said, "Man, this sober life's really treating you well," isn't it?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Bro," he goes, "I haven't seen you take a nap in like 4 months." he said, He said, from the time you get here to the time we go to bed, he goes, you are all over the place
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
And I am. I feel a lot more productive and getting things done more used to. I blow it off. I'll
yeah.
do that next shift or I'll do that tomorrow or, I just want to go to sleep right now. I want to go to bed
Hmm.
and now it's not an issue. I mean, and like I say, hopefully, I can help talk to a few people, um, since starting all this, and going to class. I've talked to a couple of the guys, like I say, since starting all this, and you see some things, and I've just flat out went out, walked up to them and asked them, "Hey, you doing okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay." I said, "Well, I was just checking on you, man." I said, "Things kind of seem like they're like you're having a hard time, and if you want to talk or something, I'm my my number,
Yeah,
and one of them actually was like, yeah, okay, hey, how did you do this? Or when did you know this or that? And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like, yeah, all
yep,
right. You're kind of dipping your toe in the water here, and
yep.
you don't,
Checking
you
that
know,
temperature a little bit. Sure.
yeah, So it's like, okay, let's talk about it, just for a second. You don't want to be overbearing. You don't want to be up there preaching from the pulpit or anything. You just wanna talk to them and get the bill because I want them to want to get help.
Yeah.
I don't want it to feel like I'm screaming at them. You need,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, hey, how can I help, man? Anytime, day and night. Don't
Yep.
care. I mean, because
That's
I
it,
don't keep
dude. I
them
mean,
from, yeah, yeah.
knowing your guys, you're in a perfect spot, man. It's like knowing your guys, they see what you've been through and how you dealt with it. And dude, that's you can't find a better example for that.
I didn't. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, like I say, I talked to a guy a while back, we were talking about mental health and some resources, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we both got that list of resources that's a full page of just
Sure.
little bitty, everybody from, teen pregnancy to mental health to alcohol to drug addiction. We got resources, and Kelly's a great resource too.
Yep.
She's kind of our dispatcher for the
Sure.
readiness. The guy I was talking to he's kind of, like I say, he's from the Northeast, but he knows a lot about some of the Texas connections and all that. And he
Mm-hmm.
said they did a study out in at a university. It's pretty esteemed or whatever. And he said that if a person in an organization in a leadership role uh, comes out, makes public, maybe their story, like you say, their journey, their what they went through, their problems, and the way they fixed it,
Mm-hmm.
that department, you know, 71% more apt to have another person come forward and seek help.
I
You
100%
know,
believe that.
I
Yep.
was like, wow, that is incredible. I said 70. I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. I was like, that is incredibly high percentage.
Yep.
And I was
It's
like,
that leadership role, man.
and like I say, if I can sit back, one day and say, you know what, you know, so and so got help because they saw what I went through and they
Yeah.
saw me get help.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's any better compliment you can get. I mean, as far as any kudos you can get, that it's going to match that. I was like, that guy may live one day because I went through what I did and shared it with them. I'm excited. Like I say, we can go on all day
Oh yeah.
on.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen the worst you can do to another human being, or a
Sure.
human being can do to themselves. So
Definitely happen like that.
it is, man, and I'm really excited. I think it's going to be. I think more of a mainstream, problem. This is just as important as cancer. This is
Sure.
just
Thanks for tuning in to the Free Burn 2023 podcast. If you or somebody you know is in crisis, reach out to the Suicide Crisis Lifeline at 988. Or if you're looking for counseling resources, contact us at freeburn2023@gmail.com. We'll do our best to get you to where you need to be. Let's keep burning that stigma, one podcast at a time.